Nile to Nebo, the life story of Moses. Part 1, Pathway to the Palace. "Oh, I can't go on like this much longer," said a mum to her husband. "Our son is 3 months old now, and it's getting impossible to keep him quiet." Can you imagine how awful it was for those Israelite mothers who lived in fear of their babies being snatched away by Egyptian soldiers? This drastic action against Israelite boys was the order of the Egyptian king, who was afraid that the population of Israelites living in his country was getting too big. He had ordered, "Every boy that is born to an Israelite family must be thrown into the river Nile, but let every girl live." "He is such a fine boy," continued Mum. "What can we do to save him?" The situation seemed hopeless, and Dad couldn't come up with any ideas. And then Mum made a suggestion. "I know what we could do," she said, and went on to explain her idea. We don't know where she got her idea, but I think God had it all worked out. Mum got a wicker basket and coated it on the outside with black tarry stuff to make it waterproof. Next day, Mum tucked her baby into the basket, and she crept out from her house to the edge of the river Nile, and with tears in her eyes, she gently placed the basket into the water. She tried to hide it as best she could among the reeds. The baby's sister, Miriam, hid nearby and watched the basket to see what would happen. I don't know what she was expecting to see, but I imagine she felt very anxious when sometime later she heard some people coming from nearby. The sound became louder and louder as a group of women came nearer. Miriam lifted her head up just enough to see who it was, and of all the people to come to the river that day, it was none other than the royal princess, who was going to bathe in the river. "Oh, whatever will happen now?" Miriam asked herself as she watched the princess getting ready to bathe in the river very close to where the basket had been hidden. And then it happened, quite softly at first, then louder. Her little brother had woken up and had started crying. The princess heard it and then spotted the hidden basket. And with her curiosity aroused, the princess ordered one of her servant girls to fetch the basket. As Miriam watched, the princess peeled back the cover and saw the baby crying. Ah! She felt sorry for the little child, and even though she recognized that it was an Israelite baby, she wanted him herself. "Oh no," must have thought Miriam. "I've got to do something. This could be my last chance." So out she came from her hiding place, and as casually as she could, though feeling very nervous inside, approached the princess, who was still trying to make the baby stop crying. "Excuse me, shall I go and get one of the Israelite women to nurse the baby for you?" offered Miriam. "Yes, go," said the princess. "Go on. Yes, off you go." Miriam didn't hesitate and excitedly ran home as fast as she could. "Mum! Mum! The princess has found baby!" She needs a nurse to feed the baby, so come quickly." So Mum hurried back with Miriam to the riverside and presented herself to the princess. "Take this baby home," said the princess, "and nurse him for me, and I will pay you for it." She probably explained that when he was old enough, that the young child would then be invited to live in the palace and become her son. Well, as Mum took her baby son home, can you imagine how she must have felt? She must have been delighted, and then also a bit confused, and probably worried about the future of her son. But she must have thought that her baby was going to be killed by being drowned in the Nile. But now, not only was he alive, but they were going to look after him at home and be paid for doing it. What a wonderful outcome. God had come to the rescue. The day came when their son was old enough to be taken to the palace. There he was adopted into the royal Egyptian family as the son of the princess. She gave him the name Moses. Moses grew up in the palace and enjoyed many of the privileges of being in the royal family, while his people, the Israelites, were being forced to work for the Egyptians. But though he dressed like a noble Egyptian, inside he knew he was an Israelite, and what bothered him most was the way the Egyptians badly treated the Israelite people. For many years they had been slaves, enduring hard labour under cruel, ruthless supervisors. One day, Moses saw for himself what was happening. He watched in horror as an Egyptian slave master viciously beat an Israelite slave. Moses was incensed, and looking to see if anyone was looking, Well, we will have to discover what happened.